The mockery. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Federation stretched across 3 kilometers of crystallized space, its transparent walls offering a view of 1,000 distant stars. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, her small human frame dwarfed by the towering representatives of 17 different alien civilizations. She had rehearsed this moment for months, yet nothing could have prepared her for the weight of their collective gaze. The Zalari delegate rose first, its serpentine body uncoiling to reach nearly 4 meters in height. Its scales shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that translated into condescension, even before it spoke. The translator in Chen's ear converted the hissing sounds into words that cut deeper than any physical weapon could. The Zalari's voice echoed through the chamber as it addressed not Chen, but the other delegates, as if humans weren't worth direct communication. Earth seeks full membership in the Galactic Federation, it announced, and ripples of amusement spread through the assembly like waves across a cosmic ocean. The Zalari continued, listing humanity's achievements with a tone that transformed each accomplishment into a joke. They had achieved faster-than-light travel only 23 years ago. They possessed merely 7 colony worlds. Their entire space fleet consisted of 43 vessels, most of them retrofitted cargo haulers with weapons bolted onto their hulls. Chen maintained her composure as delegate after delegate stood to voice their opinions. The Korvax, beings of pure energy housed in mechanical shells, calculated humanity's military strength and declared it statistically insignificant. The Theron Collective, a hive mind that controlled 37 star systems, questioned whether individual consciousness was an evolutionary dead end. Even the peaceful Etherians, floating jellyfish-like creatures who had never engaged in warfare, expressed doubts about humanity's contribution to the Federation. When Chen finally spoke, her voice carried across the chamber with unexpected strength. Humanity offers diversity of thought, creativity born from individual consciousness and the ability to adapt to any challenge. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and global wars. We have turned a barren moon into a thriving colony, and transformed Mars from red dust into green fields. These achievements may seem small to you, but they represent the determination of a species that refuses to accept limitations. The Zalari delegates' scales flickered in what Chen recognized as laughter. Determination without power is merely stubbornness. Creativity without resources is just dreaming. Your species is centuries away from contributing anything meaningful to this federation. We have decided. Earth will receive provisional status only. You will pay tribute in rare minerals from your colonies. Your space lanes will be regulated by Federation patrols. Any technological developments must be approved by the Science Council before implementation. Chen's hands clenched behind her back, but her face remained neutral. And if we refuse these terms? The chamber fell silent. Then, as if rehearsed, every delegate began to laugh. The sound was a symphony of mockery, from the melodious chiming of the Etherians to the grinding mechanical sound of the Korvax. The Zalari's response came through the laughter. Then you will learn what happens when prey forgets its place in the food chain. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks through hyperspace jumps. Chen spent every moment documenting the humiliation, preparing her report for the Global Defense Council. She knew what the response would be. Humanity had tried diplomacy, had approached the galaxy with open hands and hoped for peaceful coexistence. The Federation had answered with contempt. 6 months passed with grinding predictability. Federation patrols began appearing in human space, demanding inspections and tribute. The colony on Epsilon Eridani reported harassment from Zalari traders, who claimed mining rights to asteroids that humans had been working for years. New Sydney's orbital stations were forced to pay docking fees to Korvax administrators, who had simply arrived and declared themselves in charge. President Martinez called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. The meeting took place in a bunker 2 kilometers beneath Olympus Mons on Mars, a location chosen for its secrecy and symbolic importance. Mars had been humanity's first great achievement in space colonization, proof that humans could transform entire worlds. General Patricia Wong presented the military analysis first. Her report was brutal in its honesty. In conventional warfare, humanity would last approximately 72 hours against even a modest Federation fleet. Their energy weapons could punch through Earth's best armor like paper. Their shields could withstand nuclear weapons without flickering. Their faster-than-light drives were 3 times more efficient than humanity's best engines. Dr. James Reeves from the Science Division offered a different perspective. The Federation's technology was superior, but it was also stagnant. They had been using the same basic designs for centuries, making minor improvements but no revolutionary changes. Their strength had made them complacent. They thought in terms of overwhelming force, not innovation or adaptation. Chen stood to address the council. During my time at the assembly, I observed something crucial. Every species in the Federation thinks in predictable patterns. The Zalari are aggressive but honor-bound. They won't attack without formal declaration. The Korvax are logical but inflexible. They can't adapt to chaos. The Etherians are peaceful but passive. They won't intervene even when their interests are threatened. They see us as weak because we're young. But youth brings something they've forgotten: the ability to think beyond established paradigms. The discussion continued for hours. Ideas were proposed and discarded. Conventional weapons development would take decades to reach Federation levels. Diplomatic solutions had been exhausted. Economic pressure was impossible when humanity controlled so few resources. Then a young engineer named David Kim raised his hand. He had been invited to the meeting as a technical advisor, not a policymaker, but desperation had opened all channels of communication. Kim's proposal was simple in concept but staggering in scope. Instead of trying to match the Federation's weapons, humanity would create something entirely different. A technology so outside their understanding that they wouldn't have defenses against it. The Federation's strength came from energy weapons, shields, and faster-than-light travel. But they all relied on one thing: predictable physics and conventional understanding of space-time. The room fell silent as Kim explained his theory. Human scientists had been experimenting with quantum entanglement and dimensional folding for years. The Federation considered such research primitive and pointless, focused as they were on refining existing technologies. But Kim believed that humanity could combine these theoretical concepts with something uniquely human: the ability to weaponize the impossible. President Martinez looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. The decision they made here would determine humanity's future, either as servants of the Federation or as something else entirely. She thought of the colonies, of the children growing up on distant worlds who deserved freedom, not subjugation. She thought of the mockery in the assembly chamber, the laughter that had dismissed humanity as insignificant. The vote was unanimous. Project Prometheus was approved with unlimited resources and complete secrecy. Every human colony would contribute. Every scientist would be recruited. Every resource would be directed toward a single goal: creating something the galaxy had never seen before. The abandoned mining station in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter became humanity's most guarded secret. On the surface, it appeared to be a decommissioned facility, its mining equipment covered in dust and its habitation modules dark. But beneath the surface, in chambers carved from solid rock and shielded by every stealth technology humanity possessed, work began on Project Prometheus. The first phase involved gathering resources without attracting attention. Mining ships reported lower yields to Federation inspectors while secretly stockpiling rare elements. Research stations published papers on failed experiments while making breakthrough after breakthrough in quantum mechanics. Military vessels conducted routine patrols while their crews trained in tactics that had never been tested in real combat. As the months passed, Chen continued to attend Federation meetings, playing the role of the humbled representative from a minor species. She endured their condescension and paid their tributes, all while gathering intelligence on Federation weaknesses. She learned that the Zalari's honor code prevented them from attacking during certain celestial alignments. She discovered that Korvax processing systems could be overwhelmed by random data patterns. She found that Etherians' peaceful nature made them withdraw from any area experiencing conflict, even if it meant abandoning strategic positions. 1 year into Project Prometheus, the Federation made their biggest mistake. They pushed too hard. The colony on Epsilon Eridani sent a distress signal that reached Earth 12 hours after the attack began. Zalari warships had arrived claiming that humans had violated mining agreements. When the colonists protested that no such agreements existed, the Zalari opened fire on the habitat domes. 3,000 civilians died in the first bombardment. The survivors fled to underground shelters as Zalari ground forces landed to claim the colony's resources. The Federation's response to Earth's protest was delivered by the Zalari delegate himself, speaking to Chen in the assembly chamber while other delegates watched in amusement. This is what happens when lesser species forget their place. Your colonies exist at our pleasure. Your people live because we allow it. Accept your position or face the consequences. Chen's response was calm and measured. We understand. May we have time to evacuate our remaining colonists from Epsilon Eridani. The Zalari's scales rippled with satisfaction. You have one rotation of your Earth. After that, any humans remaining in the system will be considered hostile combatants. Chen bowed and left the chamber. As soon as her ship entered hyperspace, she sent a coded message to Mars. Prometheus is authorized for final phase. They want to see what happens when humanity is pushed too far. Let's show them. The revelation: 2 years had passed since the Epsilon Eridani massacre. The Federation had grown comfortable with humanity's apparent submission. Tribute payments arrived on schedule. Human ships submitted to inspections without complaint. Ambassador Chen attended every assembly meeting, speaking only when addressed and accepting every indignity with quiet resignation. The other species had relegated humanity to the background of galactic affairs, a minor nuisance that had been properly domesticated. The first sign that something had changed came from the Korvax monitoring stations at the edge of Federation space. 3 of their automated surveillance posts had stopped transmitting simultaneously. When investigation drones were sent, they found nothing. Not debris, not energy signatures, not even the background radiation that should have marked the station's positions. It was as if they had simply ceased to exist. The Korvax calculated the probability of simultaneous equipment failure at 3 distant locations as statistically impossible. They dispatched a science vessel to investigate. The ship arrived at the coordinates and sent 1 transmission before it too vanished without a trace. This time there was a witness. A Theran collective drone ship observed the Korvax vessel suddenly fold in on itself and disappear into a point smaller than an atom, before winking out of existence entirely. Panic spread through the Federation's military command. The Zalari mobilized their fleet, searching for signs of a new hostile species. The Etherians withdrew their ships to defensive positions around their homeworlds. The Theran collective ran millions of simulations trying to understand what they had witnessed. Every model failed to provide an explanation that fit within known physics. Then the messages began arriving. Not through normal communication channels, but appearing directly in the command centers of every Federation military installation simultaneously. The text was simple, written in every language of every member species. Humanity requests an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly. We have matters of mutual interest to discuss. The assembly chamber had never been so full. Representatives from every member species attended in person, something that hadn't happened in centuries. Armed guards from multiple species lined the walls. Energy shields hummed at maximum power. Everyone expected an attack, but no one knew what form it would take. Chen entered the chamber alone, wearing the same simple diplomatic uniform she had worn to every meeting. She carried no weapons, no devices, nothing but a small data pad. She walked to the center of the chamber and waited for silence. The Zalari delegate spoke first, its scales blazing with aggressive patterns. You dare summon us here? Your species has committed acts of war against the Federation. Explain yourself before we reduce your worlds to ash. Chen's voice carried no emotion as she replied. 2 years ago, this assembly laughed when we requested equal membership. You called us weak, primitive, and insignificant. You took our colonies, killed our people, and demanded tribute we could not afford. You gave us a choice between servitude and extinction. Today I'm here to offer you the same choice. The chamber erupted in outrage. Guards raised weapons. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. The Zalari delegate reared to its full height. You threaten us? Your entire fleet couldn't damage one of our patrol vessels. What delusion makes you think you can stand against the combined might of the Federation? Chen touched her data pad. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing a star map of Federation space. Red dots marked the locations of the vanished monitoring stations and the missing Korvax ship. As the delegates watched, more red dots appeared, 17 in total, each marking the position of a Federation military asset that had disappeared in the last hour. We call it the Prometheus device, Chen explained, her voice cutting through the chaos. It doesn't destroy, it removes. It folds space-time around an object and shifts it into a quantum dimension, where it ceases to exist in any meaningful way. No shields can stop it because it doesn't travel through space. No armor can resist it because it doesn't impact anything. It simply makes things not be. The Korvax delegates' mechanical voice buzzed with calculations. Impossible, the energy requirements for such manipulation would exceed the output of a star. Chen smiled for the first time any delegate had seen. That's what we thought too, until we discovered that consciousness itself could serve as a catalyst. Human consciousness specifically. You see, while you were refining your energy weapons and improving your shields by fractions of percentages, we were exploring the connection between thought and quantum mechanics. Every human mind is now a potential trigger for a Prometheus device. The Etherean delegate floated forward, its translucent body pulsing with distress. You're lying. No species could develop such technology in 2 years. We didn't develop it in 2 years, Chen responded. We developed it in 23 years, from the moment we achieved faster-than-light travel and realized we were not alone. Every advancement we showed you was real, but it was only what we wanted you to see. While you were laughing at our 43 ships, we were building something that made ships irrelevant. While you were mocking our 7 colonies, we were creating a network that spans dimensions you haven't discovered yet. The Theron Collective spoke through multiple voices simultaneously. If this is true, why reveal it now? Why not simply use it to conquer the Federation? Because, Chen said, turning to address the entire assembly, humans don't want to conquer. We want to coexist. But coexistence requires respect, and respect must be earned. You respected only strength, so we became strong. You valued only power, so we created power. But the power we created is so absolute that using it would make us the very monsters you believed us to be. She paused, letting her words sink in. Every human ship, station, and colony is now equipped with Prometheus technology. More importantly, 50,000 human volunteers have undergone the consciousness expansion procedure that allows them to trigger the effect at will. They are dispersed throughout Federation space, living on your worlds, working in your stations, invisible and undetectable. If humanity falls, if Earth burns, if even one colony is attacked, they will activate. Everything within a light year of a human consciousness will cease to exist. The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Humans had turned themselves into living weapons, scattered throughout the galaxy like seeds of destruction. The Federation's vast fleets, their advanced technology, their thousands of years of dominance, all of it was meaningless against an enemy that could end existence itself with a thought. The Zalari delegate's scales had turned pale, a sign of fear that Chen had never seen before. You're insane. You would destroy yourselves along with us. Chen nodded. Yes, we would. That's the difference between us. You fight to dominate. We fight to survive. You're willing to kill for power. We're willing to die for freedom. That's why you'll never defeat us, because we're not afraid of the cost of victory. She touched her datapad again. The red dots on the star map turned green. The missing stations and ship reappeared on Federation sensors, unharmed but forever changed. Their crews reported the same experience, a moment of absolute nothingness, then return, with the understanding that they existed only because humanity chose to let them exist. This is our proposal, Chen announced. Humanity receives full membership in the Galactic Federation, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. Our colonies are recognized as sovereign territory. The tribute demands are cancelled and reparations are paid for Epsilon Eridani. In return, we share our dimensional folding technology for peaceful applications, transportation, communication, exploration of realities you haven't imagined. We become partners in expanding the Federation beyond this single dimension of existence. The Korvax delegate processed the information. And if we refuse? Then we leave, Chen said simply. Humanity will withdraw from Federation space entirely. We'll fold our worlds into a dimension where you can't follow and build our civilization elsewhere. But first we'll demonstrate the full capability of Prometheus. One demonstration, on uninhabited systems of our choosing, to ensure you never forget what we chose not to do. The debate that followed lasted 17 hours. Some delegates argued for immediate military action, others for acceptance of human terms. The Etherians proposed a middle ground of extended negotiations. The Theron Collective ran probability analyses that all reached the same conclusion. Conflict with humanity now carried a non-zero chance of total galactic extinction. In the end, pragmatism won. The vote was unanimous, though reluctant. Humanity would receive full membership, not because the Federation wanted it, but because the alternative was too terrible to contemplate. As the documents were signed and transmitted, the Zalari delegate approached Chen. Its scales rippled with a pattern she didn't recognize. "You have won this day, human, but the galaxy will remember what you truly are. Not explorers or diplomats, but wielders of apocalypse." Chen met its gaze steadily. "Good. Let them remember. Let every species that might threaten humanity know that we tried peace first. We offered friendship and were given mockery. We requested equality and received oppression. We chose creation and were forced toward destruction. Let the galaxy remember that humans are not warriors by nature, but when pushed, we become something far more dangerous. Survivors." The transformation of the Federation began immediately. Human scientists worked alongside Korvax researchers to explore dimensional theory. Zalari warriors trained with human soldiers to develop tactics for multidimensional combat. Etherian philosophers engaged with human artists to understand how consciousness could shape reality. Within 5 years, the Federation had expanded into 7 parallel dimensions. Trade routes that once took months now took days through dimensional shortcuts. Colonies were established on worlds that existed in the same space but different realities. The technology that had been created as a weapon became the foundation for a golden age of exploration and discovery. But the Prometheus device itself remained under human control. The consciousness expansion procedure was never shared. The full specifications were kept in vaults on Earth that existed partially outside normal space-time. It became known as the human paradox, the species that had joined the galaxy as its weakest member, but held the power to end everything if threatened. Ambassador Chen retired after the signing of what became known as the Prometheus Accords. She returned to Earth and lived quietly in a small house overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Sometimes Federation delegates would visit, seeking to understand how humanity had achieved the impossible. Her answer was always the same. "You saw our bodies and thought us weak because we had no claws or armor. You saw our minds and thought us simple because we fought among ourselves. You saw our technology and thought us primitive because we were young. But you never saw our souls. You never understood that every human carries within them the capacity for both creation and destruction, on a scale that defies logic. We are chaos given form, dreams made real, impossibility made manifest. We are human, and that has always been enough." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never again would anyone mock humanity's weakness, for they had seen what humans could become when pushed to their limits. They had witnessed the birth of a power that transcended physical strength or technological superiority. The power of a species that refused to accept defeat, even if victory meant rewriting the laws of existence itself. And in the depths of space and dimensions yet unexplored, humanity continued to grow, to learn, to create. They had earned their place through fear, but they would keep it through wonder. For that too was human nature, to reach for the impossible and make it real. Whether in war or peace, in darkness or light, forever pushing the boundaries of what the universe thought possible. The message spread throughout the galaxy, carried on quantum waves and whispered in 1,000 languages. Respect humanity not because they demand it, but because the alternative is too terrible to contemplate. They asked for peace and were given war. They sought friendship and found enemies. But when they finally chose to show their true power, they used it not for conquest but for coexistence. That was the most terrifying thing of all. A species that could end everything but chose not to. A people who held apocalypse in their hands but offered partnership instead. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity stopped asking for respect and simply took it. Not through violence, but through the promise of what violence could become in human hands. The war machine humanity built was not made of metal and energy. It was made of will and consciousness, of determination and sacrifice. It was a weapon that grew stronger the more it was threatened, more dangerous the more it was cornered. It was the ultimate expression of human nature, the absolute refusal to accept defeat, even if victory meant becoming something beyond comprehension. And so the galaxy moved forward, forever changed by the species they had once mocked as weak. Humanity had forged not just a war machine but a new reality, one where the smallest voice could carry the greatest power, where the youngest species could teach the oldest lessons, where those who were mocked and underestimated could reshape existence itself. The war machine still exists, sleeping in human consciousness, waiting in dimensions beyond sight. It has never been used at full power, and every species in the galaxy prays it never will be, for they have learned what happens when humanity is pushed too far. They stop trying to prove themselves and simply become what they need to be, regardless of what that means for reality itself. This is humanity's gift and curse to the galaxy. The knowledge that somewhere among the stars, a species exists that values freedom over life, dignity over existence, and respect over survival. They are the war machine that chose peace, the apocalypse that chose creation, the chaos that chose order. They are human, and that will always be enough.